April 27th. Today we're reading Numbers 4 and Psalm 38. Numbers is kind of hard, but don't give up. I know the stories that you love will pick up soon. And this really is the story about a group of families. So just imagine for a second you're in a large group photo, whether it's a church photo or a school photo or something. Who do you always look for? Probably yourself. And this is in the Bible because after all this disobedience, after all this spitting in the face of God, these families are still there. God is keeping his promises to Israel in spite of their sin, and that's why their names are here in the Bible. Now, Psalms are really great, though. And this psalm, Psalm 38, is also about God being faithful when we are sinful. Psalm 38 begins, Lord, rebuke me not in your anger, nor discipline me in your wrath, for your arrows have sunk into me, and your hand has come down on me. This psalm is all about God's mercy when David has sinned. D.A. Carson, in his commentary again, points out that one of the most attractive things about David is his candor. At his best, he's very transparently honest. And, when all the things that go on in his life, he kind of brings it together in this psalm of his sins and the fact that the guilt of what he has done is beating down on him. God is rightfully angry with him. And he is suffering because of that from physical ailments. He's full of frustrated sighing. He has sunk into deep depression. His friends have abandoned him. He faces plots and deceptions from his political enemies. And he's feebled like a deaf mute, unable to speak. His enemies are numerous. This is horrible because of his sin. But you'll notice as you go through this psalm, David doesn't say, oh, look at me, I'm so great, that he's kept all God's promises. But in verse 18, he frankly confesses his sin. And in verse 21, he begs for God not to forsake him. And he entreats in verse 22, God to help him and not to rebuke him in that anger that we read. David appeals for mercy. And that is the great thing about this message of the Bible. When we are faithless, he is faithful. So use David's words as you reflect upon your own failures.